Well, hello and welcome to another What Sold on eBay video. I'm your host, Chris, as the Thrift Shop Hustler. In this video, we're going to go over the top 10 items sold in February in our eBay charity shop. These actually are going to exclude any kind of jewelry or any kind of solid gold pieces, as a solid brick of gold is worth a solid brick of gold. These are going to be items that are going to be things to look out for: garage sales, estate sales, thrift stores, church sales, and all that stuff. And so I appreciate everyone's time. So let's get right into it. Today we first have a Root Sahara signed painted rare wood from Israel. As we can see here, these are kind of like place settings, and they're signed, as you can see here, made in Israel. I've never actually heard of this brand before, but it's definitely something to look out for, especially like home decor that kind of seems a little off, or at least something that seems really kind of, funky and cool. The colors are really vibrant on these. These are the things that if you would see like at a estate sale or something, you would definitely look up, especially, if you can look at the back and see that it's, made by a specific artist or something like that. And home decor has been selling really well over the last couple years, especially mid-century modern kind of stuff. And this is not that, but you know what I'm saying? It's like different things to kind of look out for. For me, I would normally pass up these kind of things in my younger, more vulnerable days, but now I definitely take a second look at this stuff. Anyways, this sold for $135 plus shipping. Next up, we have this Canon Powershot. Now, you're going to see a lot of these things in garage sales and estate sales, especially garage sales. You see these like older Canon or like these little mini kind of digital cameras. You find these all over the place, and usually you can find them for a pretty good price. Now, the majority of these type of cameras are going to be worth anywhere between $10 to $30 with like a whole complete set with like a charger and a battery and maybe a bag and a couple of accessories. Sometimes these kind of digital ones don't come with lenses. They're not kind of like SLR cameras. They're more like pocket digital cameras. But sometimes you'll find lenses for these things, but not too often. The most part you're going to find is the camera, usually a charging unit, which you see here. If we take a closer look at it, as you can see here, like I said, do your research on these. For the most part, I pass a lot of these up for whatever reason. And to be honest, I didn't do the research on this. This wasn't one of my listings. But for whatever reason, this camera sold for $165. So people are still paying big dollars for these Powershot Canons. Like I said, the Elfs were like a really popular brand back in the day. People use these for all kinds of things, like having maybe a spare like pocket camera in the car. Now everyone has like basically their phones and everything like this, but for every once in a while, people need these kind of cameras, especially like the older generation that don't really feel comfortable like taking photos with their cameras or can't even figure it out. They know how to usually operate one of these second or third generation digital cameras, especially the smaller ones. And so definitely check out these. One of the kind of most interesting thing for these, when I find these at garage sales or estate sales, or I pick these up, is the amount of people that don't take their memory cards or erase their memory cards, because it's kind of interesting to kind of, when you find these and you're testing them out, that they left their memory card, and you can see their their trips to Barcelona or the local like amusement park or whatever. It baffles my mind. If you're ever gonna sell one of these, like, why would you not take out your memory stick or your memory card or whatever? But anyways, whatever. Take a look for these things. And sometimes actually the memory cards are worth keeping too, because I can tell you, like, I use the memory cards for all different types of stuff, especially like file storage and things. So it's not like you can just put photos on it. You can actually store files on these if you have a card reader, and you can buy a really cheap one for like $10 on Amazon with free shipping. So it's one of those kind of side little hacks you could use with some of the storage if you're looking to store some files offline or something. Next up, we have this Lisa Larson kind of like Pottery Cat. Now, this was an interesting kind of sale because the manager that emailed me about this saying, "Oh, we have this cat. It's a ceramic cat and it's worth money." And I'm kind of like rolling my eyes, because we see this a lot where it's like sometimes people think things are worth a lot of money, but when I actually looked this up, I was like, wow, this is kind of an interesting piece of art here. And I think this was maybe about 8 inches tall, and it was a really nice piece. and I put it for $200, and it sold less than 24 hours, which I'm very surprised because the $200 price point was pretty high comparatively to the other ones. The other ones were selling from anywhere between 60, man, maybe $140. So this one was in really good condition. So I guess it's that, maybe there was no chips or cracks. It had a little bit of surface wear to it, but other than that, this is definitely something to look out for. Little ceramic things, especially from Lisa Larson here. This is what the hallmark looks like, and there was a little piece of Velcro underneath here. I can only imagine someone had this like on a someone definitely, well, this came from California, so someone probably definitely had this like velcroed to their cabinet because earthquake kind of stuff. And they actually make earthquake putty that is like little tacky. So if you're ever out of California, out of state, and you ever see like this like putty tacky stuff that's on the ceramic things, that's kind of like what that's about. But anyways, keep an eye out for this particular artist, Lisa Larson. These are vintage Pottery Cats, and they're pretty rare. Next up, we have this Hanna-Barbera. This is a Space Ghost animation cell, as we can see here. Now, this one is a like a collectible one. It's not really one of the ones that were used in the actual show. Some of those actually go for a pretty crazy amount of money, especially depending on the show or whatever. But anyways, they Warner Brothers does a lot of this, Disney does a lot of this, and they make kind of like collectible ones, quote unquote, that are limited edition. And they are actually, for the most part, some of these collectible ones are actually hand colored and hand inked, which makes them kind of interesting. But it's one of those things, if you guys ever see animation cell stuff in stores or in garage sales or estate sales, and they're cheap enough, just buy them and then do the research afterwards. But if some of them are pretty pricey, then you're gonna have to do your research. But I mean, if you come across something like this and it's like $10 or $15 at a garage sale, just buy it and do the research after. Because for the most part, any of these collectible ones, they go from anywhere between 30, 40, 50, 100, $200, and some of the rare ones that are signed by the actual artist and things can go for a pretty crazy amount of money, even though they're not production used, I guess I would say. And a kind of a side story real quick, we're going to do a little story time. When I was younger, we actually lived by a bunch of artists that worked for The Simpsons. So it's like a lot of this stuff sometimes we could have got for so cheap, and even like old 80s He-Man and Transformers and Filmation was a lot of animation cells that were local that people were just selling like at garage sales and stuff. And we used to be able to get this stuff for so cheap. And I sold a bunch of that stuff in the early 2000s, and I wish I would have kept it because some of that stuff is worth thousands of dollars now per piece because it actually had the backgrounds. Another kind of fun kind of tip on animation cells, especially production ones, is if you can get a complete set with a background. Now, for the most part, the animation cells laid over a background and then they did the photo. But usually when you found these at estate sales, you bought these in lots, they didn't come with the background. The background, especially if they're hand painted backgrounds with the animation cell, that is production. Some of the Disney ones go for hundreds of thousands of dollars. So just one of those things to kind of look out for. But anyways, I can go on and on about animation cells since it's definitely my cup of tea. Next up, we have these Gucci Men loafer driving shoes. I don't know if I would ever drive in these shoes, but whatever. To each their own. Maybe they would drive around in a golf cart with these. Anyways, these are alligator style. So they're not quite alligator. They're just alligator style. Pretty much everyone knows about, alligator and crocodile shoes, especially real ones. And those can go for like crazy, crazy money, especially with the Gucci name. These were actually done on an auction, and they sold for $285, even with like, this kind of, I would say this is like average wear to them. And as you can see here, this is what the bottoms look like. Actually, the bottoms look actually pretty good. Pretty nice, as you can see here. Gucci, authentic Gucci, sells for pretty good money. There's a whole resurgence of people buying the vintage stuff, because I remember like the Gucci that was out in the 80s and even in the early 90s for the most part never really sold like as the high-end stuff that is out now. Like some of that stuff goes for crazy money, but now there's like a whole resurgence of people buying retro Gucci for all different types of reasons, fashion reasons and nostalgia reasons and all kinds of reasons. But anyways, this is everyone knows about Gucci. Just look out for this stuff. Here's an interesting thing. This is from this is a vintage Mark Cross Grace, kind of like it's a handbag, and it's kind of like a box. And I never heard of this brand before, and I was very surprised that this particular brand went for so much. And if you're not familiar with Mark Cross, look these up and check it out. Especially if it's a brand you've never heard of. Now, I think most people that are into reselling and know a lot about handbags and clothing and shoes probably know about this. I did not know about this brand. Mark Cross was another brand that I just came across and was like, oh, it's just another one of those kind of, vintage handbags that are probably worth about 50 or 60 bucks. Nope, there are some of them that are worth crazy money. This one sold for 300 just because of the condition. It was in pretty good condition, especially from being, I hate to even try to guess what year this came out. I want to guess like maybe the mid 80s, late 80s. I could be wrong. If you know in the comments below, let me know. But anyways, this sold relatively quick too for $300. I think we might have took a best offer on this for a little bit less, but it is what it is. I think it was because it was such in great condition for the age. These things usually get all beat up, especially inside. It's like leather, and you put a bunch of makeup and God, change, and even change is dirty, like little coins and things. They collect a bunch of dirt. So definitely check that particular brand out. The brand is Mark Cross. Next up, we have these vintage Bose speakers. I didn't even realize that Bose has been around for a pretty long time. As you can see, there's a little bit of water damage on these, and it was a kind of like a set here. And speaking of like kind of like mid-century modern type stuff, now I'm not quite sure exactly what year these came out, but they do really have that mid-century modern kind of feel to them. And even with the water damage, as you can see there, that's like it's not necessarily water. I mean, it could be. I mean, it's some sort of liquid. It could be like just condensation. To me, it looks like someone probably put a glass of water or something on top of there, knocked it over, and it just went running down it, as we could see here. And this one was not like that. Now, you can actually, I'm pretty sure whoever bought these, now these were local pickup. These were not going to be shipped. Whoever purchased these things can kind of really easily be restored, and I find a lot of people buying these kind of like mid-century modern type things that have some wear to them. They usually restore these and then they kind of resell them. The wood could be refinished really easily, and these kind of, I forget what they call these particular. It's like it's almost like a canvas, but I don't think it's called canvas. It's called something else. You can buy like the vintage kind of material and kind of set that up to make them like new. But anyways, these sold for $495. This is something for me, I would definitely pass up if I saw these. I wouldn't even know what these were. I mean, I know what they were, speakers and everything, but Bose is one of those companies that you definitely got to buy if you see it at garage sales and stuff. Some of the newer stuff sells for hundreds of dollars. The sell-through rate on Bose speakers and stereo system things, the sell-through rate is pretty good, and the markup is pretty good too. So especially if you find these, at different places. Now, of course, it's electronics. You got to make sure that they're working and all that. But other than that, it's something to definitely look out for. Next up is I have a really cool item from Creighton University. They donated. I want to say like 20 something jerseys that were going to be used in game, and after the game they would be given out and shipped off to different people who donated. So this was a really cool sale. We had a lot of these. This is one of the highest sale ones for $545. What was really cool is the people that bought these, they even got the warm-up jerseys that had a name of a relative that they were fighting cancer. So it was a really cool item, and we get these items, these unique items, in from time to time from different parts of the company. And so Creighton University, huge shout out to them. They did a lot of the back end work of shipping these out and contacting the customers once they sold. So really cool thing, and definitely check out our link below if you want to find any kind of unique items that we have in the shop. And like I said, money goes to the American Cancer Society. Next up is probably one of the coolest autograph items I've came across this year was this Kobe Bryant signed basketball. And as you can see, this is what Kobe's signature looked like. A beautiful ball. It had one little issue because I guess whoever stored this, let me see if I can find it. Yeah. Whoever stored this left it in the cabinet. And what happened was rubber or leather on plastic over the years kind of like meshed together. So when you took the ball off the stand, some of the ball came with it. Now, luckily for this ball, it wasn't in an area that was showing, so it's not too bad. Still some damage. Maybe took maybe $100 or $50 off, maybe the total value of this from that. The very nice thing about this particular ball, because autograph authenticity is any authenticity and certificates on any kind of autographs could be an issue in itself. This particular one, which makes this very unique, is it actually the certificate of authenticity came from the actual Lakers organization with Laker letterhead. Like you honestly can't have a better certificate of authenticity than from the actual sports team that it actually came from. And so, this is like this thing alone just is amazing. The fact that it had all this stuff. This sold for $800. We actually sold this before for $1,000, and the buyer didn't end up paying, so we relisted it and we took a best offer for $800 for this particular one. I think this basketball is probably worth anywhere between $1,200 to $1,500. Now, that's what I think it's worth in terms of collectible ability, but selling something is a whole other ball game. No pun intended. But $800 is definitely a reasonable price for a sale for this. So, it's a win-win situation for both parties, the seller and the buyer. So this is a really cool piece. And huge shout out to Randy in Sherman Oaks who donated this piece to the eBay store. Very, very cool. Next up, we have these antique match strikers. These are particular items that I believe these house lighters. And I'm not quite sure what year these came out, but as you can see there, the lighters, they kind of like sit in there. I think you can put like even some people use these as kind of like not candle holders, but there's like these metal candles that you can light, and they have like fuel inside them, and they illuminate and stuff. But anyways, this is a whole collection of these things, and these things are actually pretty rare because it's hard to find these in these condition, especially because of the age, and like I said, these things usually get chipped and broken, and they're disgusting, and it looks like someone actually took the time to really clean these up. And not to mention, like, there's sterling silver kind of I don't know what you want to call those collars, or the top parts of those, as you can see here. And there's a chip on that one. Anyways, like I said, these things chip very easily, and so the fact that these are actually looking amazingly clean, sold for $800 for the lot of 9. Last but not least, we have a kind of a special Bolo. Today is a Kid Robot little frog figure. This sold for $40. I really just wanted to actually kind of, speaking of Simpsons, there's Matt groaning. Kid Robot, look out for this particular brand if you're out there in garage sales and estate sales, especially if you find these little toys. Now, the caveat is, like, not all Kid Robot stuff is going to be worth a ton, but if you can find any of the Kid Robot toys, that's what the logo looks like too. There's like usually a little robot on the side there, but this one's just words. Definitely take a second look at these things. There's some of them that are worth hundreds, or some of them worth $5 or $10, but if you see Kid Robot anywhere, definitely take a second gander at them. Anyways, once again, I'm Chris, the Thrift Shop Hustler. If you're not subscribed, definitely go down there, click the subscribe button. It's glad to be back and be on camera, and the green screen, I guess, is sort of working. So we'll see how this looks like at the end of the thing. And so I really appreciate everyone's support. Go check out the American Cancer Society eBay store below, and we will see you next time. Take care.